fucking yes me. 'Cause we stay all late, and I'm wide awake. I'm not coming home tonight. So the next time when I'm on the line, I'll read you this note. I'm not coming home tonight.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Pass Interference Podcast, where, of course, I am your host, Max Whirling, as always. How's everybody doing on this lovely morning, evening, night, whatever you like to call it? We are recording on a Wednesday. It is February 20th. I just woke up from some sleep, and I'm ready to get this shit started. You can find this podcast, of course, on all your media platforms. Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts. Podbean is our home. It's been a pretty good home as well. Stitcher Radio, I think we're on to. I don't know. We're just everywhere. Castbox. Just fucking go. Just go listen. Go like us. Did a campaign on Facebook. Got some more likes in, so that's always good. And and hopefully we have some questions here. So I think my wife so graciously left me a question, but we get the ball moving, rolling, things like that. Like I said, I just woke up from some sleep, so excuse me if I sound a little tired, and excuse me if my words don't sound right, because I'm waking up, people. And introducing first, as always, to my right, the co-host of this lovely, lovely podcast. It is Johan Jonathan Eckert. How are you, sir?
Doing awesome, man. Today's my only day off, and it was pretty clutch with the snow. So, doing pretty good. You got the sleep junkies, and I'm continuing the trend of drinking during the podcast. So, got to keep that ball rolling. I'm feeling pretty good.
For the podcast. And that's awesome. And to my imaginary left, we have the other co-host of this podcast, good buddy, best friend, best chef in the world, Bronson. How are you, sir?
I am good. I'm kind of got a severe case of agita because I don't like reading things about my Bears and then see us doing stuff. So it freaks me out. And for the record, I don't want Antonio Brown, but I don't. Let's just move on.
Well,
I can't think straight. I'm distracted. I'm just like refreshing Twitter. I'm getting nervous. I feel like something's gonna happen, and I would not be surprised if we hear about a trade during this podcast with Antonio Brown. Like, I'm fully expecting it.
Yeah, I know too. So here's
too much being said right now. Too much.
So let's get that elephant out of the room then.
I need a drink.
In terms of for real. Let's get this. Let's get that news out of the way with Antonio Brown. So it's come out. It's been reported by Antonio, by the Steelers, by everything. That I guess he talked with Art Rooney. They hashed out whatever things they've had, but he's not staying in Pittsburgh. He is requested a trade. He wants to be traded, and the Steelers are acquiescing and saying it's best for the team to move on. First off, John, I'll start with you with this. Is this a good move by the Steelers to trade Antonio Brown?
Yes, the whole season, all you heard about was just all the distractions. It started with LeVeon Bell, and then towards the end of the season, it was Antonio Brown. And I think that this team is finally saying, you know what, we need to move on. You know, there's too many distractions. This is a big, one of the biggest franchises in the NFL, and it's good for both parties. There's no way they could bring him back and move on from this. I mean, it just kind of imploded towards the end of the year. They need to move on from him. Antonio needs to move on and calm down, because he's brought a whole bunch of attention on himself and get back to what he does best, and that's being one of the top receivers in the league. And, you know, we were talking about it in our Twitter group message right before the podcast. I mean, on NFL Network, they were talking about some of the top teams, and in my opinion, I think the 49ers are a good fit. I mean, he needs to go somewhere where it's, somewhat quiet, and I think it'd be a good fit for him. I mean, they have a pretty solid offense there. They're going to lose Pierre Garçon, and it'd be a great fit for them. He can go somewhere else in a different conference, different division, rebuild himself, and Pittsburgh can just move on and worry about finding another receiver. I mean, they have Juju, but I think like last week we were talking about, I think they're going to have to bring in another guy, whether it's in the draft or free agency, to complement Juju Smith-Schuster. Because I mean, he's a hell of a receiver, but I don't think he's the guy that can just do it all alone. Because if it's just him, I mean, they're obviously going to double up on him. But it's good for both parties. They just need to move on from this. Enough with the distractions, and they have too many of that this year, and they just need to move on.
All right. Speaking of trade targets, Bronson, you're the one who sent out the NFL tweet, the NFL Network tweet, where it was David Carr, not Derek Carr. Always trips me up, man. David Carr and Reggie Wayne, they were talking about some possible trade places and some places that we're looking to trade for him in terms of some contending teams, some rebuilding teams, some stuff like that. But they had 4, and it involves 2 of our teams that they had on there, which was the Bears and the Redskins. They also had the Seahawks and the 49ers. Do you think his market's only limited to 4 teams, or do you think there's more market there?
Well, I'll tell you right now, like I understand like we're like the one like piece away on offense away from like being a Super Bowl contending team, but the way I fucking look at it, like honestly, like if we go out and get Antonio Brown, I feel like this is almost going to remind me of like next thing I'm waiting for is like Kyle Fuller to come out and be like, yeah, we're the dream team, bitch. And then just to get burned, and I don't know how I feel about it. Like I would put the Bears at the bottom of like the list of teams that would be trading for him, just because there's so little we could really offer. So I mean, like I was just saying to you, like I could see a Kyle Long or a Leonard Floyd trade with maybe like the pick that the Raiders gave us for next year's draft. I could see like a number of different options, but I mean, like probably like realistically 3 different options. And it just seems like really hard to pull off. But like I said, I was having a mad case of like weird gut feelings like a couple days ago. And I said the Bears aren't done. There's going to be one more big offseason move that they do this year. Did not expect it to be for a wide receiver. In my gut, I was walking around work saying it's going to be David Johnson. That's what I was saying in my stomach, that the Bears were going to trade for him. But Antonio Brown, man, can have like one of the highest paid receivers, one of the highest paid receivers in the NFL, and the highest paid defensive player in the NFL. Like, get the fuck out of here! Like, it just doesn't make sense to have 2 receivers making like a combined God knows how many dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our receiving core was not a weakness, in my opinion. So it just doesn't make a lot of sense for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So
let him go to any team but the Packers. Let me also get that off my chest.
I don't know. I was looking at, so interestingly enough, I was looking at over the cap as well. Bronson and I were just talking about this. So, not only you have to realize with Antonio Brown, not only are you paying a draft pick to trade for him, but you also have to pay his contract. So the Bears, as we obviously know, do not have the first 2 picks, right? They don't have their first or second.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd have to be like a 3rd round pick plus a player, or it'd have to be a future draft capital, which, I don't know necessarily if they can do that. Plus, as of right now, they only have about $8 million, or after releasing Deion Sims, I should say, they have about $13.5 million. That's not, you can't fit Antonio Brown in that contract, so they have to figure out where they can extend some guys, reshuffle some money, and that's just the Bears too. Just looking at everything, Seattle was brought up as a possible team. They could fit him in. I mean, Seattle's making has about $52 million in cap space. Plus, Russell Wilson, I believe, is on his last year of contract. And if that's the case, he's they'll extend him. They could even get more money in there. Just looking at their team, they really can't cut anywhere. Maybe Barkevius Mingo saved $5 million, but I mean they could afford it if they want to go that way. Because then they would have a dangerous. Think about that team adding Antonio Brown. You would have Doug Baldwin, who slots into a number 2 wide receiver role, more than a number 1, and you would have Tyler Lockett to go up up the middle. That would be incredible for the Seahawks if they could pull that move off.
I just think that's too much personality in that wide receiver room. That's the one thing I could see is that they struggle to get along. I feel like Antonio needs to go somewhere where he is it. I think a lot of the things that happened with Antonio Brown over the last couple years, because I felt like other people were getting in the way of him getting the ball. I feel like that's where it all started, like Martavius, and now Juju, and then Juju got that award, and then it was just like, I just really feel like he needs to go to like the 49ers because they have no one else.
And that was the next team I was going to bring up, the 49ers. They could fit him easily. They have $65 million in cap space, and they have a massive need at wide receiver. Their top wide receiver, who they expected to be for at least a couple years, was Pierre Garçon, and he had some injuries and couldn't do anything. So right now you're looking at like Marquise Goodwin as your top wide receiver, and that's not going to cut it. So you need to definitely get a guy like AB in there. And then they said Washington, the Redskins, and I don't see it. We don't have. I see it in the sense of, yes, we need as much playmakers and stuff like that, and over the cap's not really working with me. So, because they know that the Redskins don't want to work with anything with their cap. But no, they don't really have the cap space, and realistically, we don't need Antonio Brown. We don't want to, we're already missing a third, so now you're asking us to trade a second round pick when there's other holes on the Redskins side of things. So I don't see it for Washington. The only thing I could see is if, like I said, if he restructures his contract, Antonio Brown, and wants to come to Washington. But even then, I don't know. I just don't see the fit there. I don't know necessarily.
I will say, so reading an article on NFL.com, I know, obviously, we've been talking about the Bears were up there with a potential trade, which I also hope they don't do Bronson. But this article, they were saying, since they're also going to lose LeVeon Bell, they might be going after Jordan Howard, too, in the trade. So, I mean, I don't want to see it. I don't think he's a good fit in Chicago. I'm going to stand by. He needs to go to the 49ers. If those are the teams that they're talking about, don't go to Washington. They have enough problems that they have to worry about. They don't need a big name receiver who's shown last year who is a diva. I mean, like I say, he's one of the top receivers of this generation. But no, just go to the 49ers. I can see them trying to get Jordan Howard because they want to find another guy. But no, don't do it. Just try to sign Mark Ingram from someone. Don't try to do that.
Yeah, I just don't see the fit in terms of a couple of things. But I mean, I'm just trying to look at potential other teams that could look into it, that have some cap space, that have some capital in there. Not really much in terms of the NFC. I mean, if you want to make it happen, maybe in Arizona, give Josh Rosen if he's your guy, or if we'll talk about the draft in just a second. But
I can't imagine Antonio Brown and Larry Fitzgerald on the same team. Not from like a production scary standpoint, but like they are just such polar opposites.
Mm-hmm.
Such polar opposites. Like I feel like they would throw hands at each other literally in the middle of a play. Like I just could see like Larry Fitzgerald like ripping his mustache off.
Yeah, but you got to realize with a team like Arizona, they have to move. I know Larry Fitz is coming back for one more year, and that's great. No, but Larry Fitzgerald is going to retire after all intents and purposes.
Right. I mean, but honestly, like Antonio Brown is, I feel like only a solution for a team that's trying to win now too, though. I mean, he's 30 years old. He's going to be 31 before the season starts. So you get him realistically for maybe 3 years at his top level, maybe 3 years. That's if he doesn't have like a crazy injury that declines his career.
Yeah. So I see that too. Surprisingly enough, the Jets weren't thrown out there, and the Jets have a need at wide receiver because even though you have Quincy and even though you've got Robbie Anderson, they need a wide receiver still. They need a top guy.
Yeah, but they could easily assess that in like the second or third round of the draft, and also they already have enough shitheads in that receiving core, so maybe they don't want to take on another headache. Before you know it, it's going to be like a Plaxico Burris type situation, and instead of Plaxico and LeGarrette, it's going to be Plaxico and Robbie Anderson like toting guns somewhere.
I'm just trying to take a look here. I mean, there's some. I mean, I thought Oakland could have definitely traded one of their first round picks. Like 27. The one they got from 27 is the one they got from the Cowboys or the Bears. I can't remember.
24 they got
from the Bears. Yeah, so 27 is the one they got from the Cowboys. I could see that, and him coming to Oakland. His attitude would fit perfectly with their culture around there. Plus, they have enough cap space to fit him in there. So, yeah, I could see that as well. But
I'm looking right now. I don't think teams are offering firsts, man. I think the Steelers are asking for like a third now. Pretty sure I read that.
I think they're openly saying third, but I could see him going for no less than a second. Like, in my opinion, I think because you have to, if you're going to take that big of a cap hit and everything, if you're going to do that, then you have to, you know what I'm saying? Like, you have to, the ends have to justify the means.
Right, but I also understand that, like, the Steelers now have tied their own hands. They have agreed to trade him, and it's public knowledge, and every team in the NFL has seen what he's been doing over the course of the last 3 weeks, and nobody wants him. You Twitter search him right now, like you'll see tweets. I'm hearing from people in the NFL, no one wants him. So it's very easy for all the other owners and GMs to call and be like, hey, like, let's make sure we're all on the same page here.
Yeah.
Now, I could see a first or second round pick if it gets down to like some crazy ass bidding war. But if they're only receiving like, let's say 4 or 5 calls, and all these teams have like, like Khalil Mack type offers, all very similar with very slight differences in them. Mm-hmm. Like, I could see it being something like that, but like not on the same scale as a Khalil Mack trade, but like maybe like a third this year and a third next year, like it's stretching to that point, with a player mixed in. Yeah. I don't see it being a first or a second. I think teams have literally been like, all right, now like between Antonio Brown doesn't give a fuck what the Steelers get. And so that's gave him full power and discretion to abuse social media the way he has, because the more he did, the less trade value he got for himself. He's betting on someone's going to take me. It's just a matter of who.
Right.
Yeah.
So, John, you're awfully quiet in this whole thing.
He tweeted for us, though.
I did.
I know,
I was throwing some shout-outs on Facebook and Twitter for us. But yeah, I mean, I wanted to
He's
let
working,
you guys talk. Yeah, I'm working in the background. But, yeah, no, I want to let you guys talk because, I mean, both of your teams were thrown out there as potential trade targets. I mean, obviously, the Ravens are going to be up there because, I mean, interdivision trade, obviously. But I mean, no.
Well, I'm seeing shit right now. Odell to the fucking Ravens, man.
I keep seeing that, and a bunch of Raven
So-
players on Twitter are throwing that out there. They're trying to recruit it.
So it's well, that's the thing. So that's interesting, and that's the next point I wanted to bring up. So apparently Odell was on the trading block last year, and this has been
Patriots almost took him.
Yeah, and the Patriots almost the Giants stopped fielding offers because the Patriots kept calling the Giants so much that the Giants were like, "Fuck this, we're done. We're not trading him." But yeah, that to me is crazy in terms of everything. And I get it from New York because, they don't want to deal with, his headaches or his everything, but Odell is a playmaker, man. Odell is arguably, I would say he's more valuable.
Sorry. Okay, I just went to Odell Beckham's Twitter. Okay, that was his fault. But he tweeted 10 minutes ago, one day, in all caps, everything will all make sense in the end. I promise you. Stories unfolding. It's all a part of the journey. # just wait. And then he tweeted 3 minutes before that saying, in all caps, big mood, and it's a video of him dancing. And then he tweeted 2 hours ago, they don't even know what they just did. The shift transformation is coming. Thank you for motivating me yet again. And then he tweeted right after that saying, on God.
What?
Yeah, he has some crazy tweets out there. Now here's the interesting thing. I think he was also talking about a guy from his draft class, if I'm not mistaken. Hold on one second here. Let me just look it up. Bear with me here. Because I am not prepared, of course, as always. But 2015. He was... Okay, so he was taken in the year before. But the guy... Eric Flowers. It's such a terrible, terrible draft pick. But no, I think he's honestly talking about Landon Collins because it's been reported and basically confirmed by Landon Collins that he gone. He gone. There was rumors that he was cleaning out his locker, but there was rumors that they were still going to franchise tag him and keep him around, but people are like, oh no, he's cleaning out his lockers. Then Paul Schwartz, who's with the New York Post, said, attention, those who care about the New York Giants, Landon Collins has not cleaned out his locker. Go about your business, have a nice day. To which Landon Collins tweeted out him and said, the stuff in that locker I have left, I do not need. 100. So he gone. He is gone, which is surprising because Landon Collins is a 3-time Pro Bowl safety. This is a guy who
dude, I remember.
breathes.
I can't tell you how mad I was when we drafted him instead of Kevin White that year, and then he dropped to the second round.
Yeah,
wasn't he the first pick in the second round or second pick in the second round?
He was the first pick in the second round.
Yeah, the Giants traded up to get him, and I was mad because we got duped twice because my 2 people in that draft I wanted was Landon Collins and Leonard Williams. And I remember driving to New Jersey, having the draft on fucking ESPN, and listening to the second round because I had watched the first round prior. I'm like, all right, well, the fucking Jets took my guy right before we picked, and now we got Kevin White. I don't trust this motherfucker. Stay true. And then I was like, all right, day 2, here we go. Let's get Landon Collins. And then it's the Giants traded up with the Browns that year?
With the Tennessee.
Yeah, and then they fucking went and grabbed Landon Collins. And I remember pounding the fucking dashboard of the car and be like, motherfucker! And of course I'm driving past the motherfucking stadium. I just remember being so freaking mad and just being like, fuck you, MetLife! Yeah, and then they took, and then Jamal Adams. I wanted Jamal Adams instead of Mitch, and then friggin' New Jersey fucks me again.
Well, I get it too, but I think getting Mitch in there is more important than Jamal Adams. So.
Well, I wasn't happy in the moment, Max. Okay, that's just what my thoughts were, and now it's okay. It's kosher. I'm happy. I love Mitch. I have a helmet that I spent $400 on, man. I'm okay.
All right,
He's
Trump,
invested.
Trump Jr. right there with your fucking
Yeah,
speech
yeah,
pattern
you
there.
like that? Like how that's what I was going for.
Yeah.
like that.
I hope
Yeah.
you're doing the hand signals too.
Yeah,
Oh, I
too.
do. I
Yeah,
had
the
my
fucking
hands. I had
Italian
my
hand
hands up.
gestures. Yeah.
Uh,
But yeah, Landon Collins. I think, and we've talked about the safety
arguably
marker.
like top 5 best safeties in the NFL. He doesn't get enough love. He's probably one of the most underrated ones in the NFL.
Yeah. Well, a lot of
Yeah.
people don't like the fact that he doesn't get a lot of interception stats, but the guy is there. Like, he's there every play. He's a surefire tackler. He's a pretty good coverage guy. I mean, yeah, to me, it doesn't matter if he picks off the ball.
Right. If and only if, like, okay, let's say for example, Adrian Amos he leaves, and if he does, I know he came out and said that we're talking and then we're working out stuff and yada yada yada. I would not be surprised if he went to Denver. Okay, obviously because of Vic. I wouldn't be surprised if he went to Baltimore because he's from Baltimore, Towson, where I live. Go fuck me. Or I mean, of course, where I live is where he'd come just to spite me. And so I could see him going to those 3 teams. I don't think he's gonna get huge contract. The safety market is always super dry anyway. But if we don't get Adrian and bring him back for that continuity that him and Eddie have, I want Landon Collins because Landon and Adrian are both the same kind of safety. So it'd be an instant seamless transition, but maybe arguably an even better safety. They're both coverage guys, hard hitters. Playmakers. Eddie's the fast guy, the ball hawk. Give me some Landon Collins. If that's our big off-season move, I'm okay with that. Anyway, that's my piece.
Nice. Yeah, I think this is a good move. For in terms of, in my opinion, I think this is a good move for Landon Collins. I mean, if he can just go break away from the Giants and go secure his money from a team, fuck yeah, go do it, man. Because this safety market's going to be crazy. And I was listening to a podcast earlier from Stick to Football, and they were talking about the 2017 guys are going to be soon extension eligible. And that includes Jamal Adams. That includes Malik Hooker. That includes guys like that. Which
I don't know, Eddie Jackson.
Yeah, Eddie Jackson. I mean, Christ.
Better than both of those names you said, you bitch. Fuck out of here.
Whatever.
Don't disrespect my team, man.
Boom.
Highest graded safety in the NFL this year. Don't freaking forget it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Fact check me.
Anyways, my point is that, and I think Eddie's gonna be extension eligible before those guys by a year because he was a 5th round pick or 4th round pick.
Yeah, same draft class, but yeah.
But yeah, so he's got the year less in there. So, where was he drafted? Was it 4th? No, was it? Yeah, 4th round.
Fifth
no,
round.
4th round. No, 4th round. I got it right here. 4th round, pick 112.
Him and Trey went both in the 4th round?
Yes.
Wow. We traded up for him, I remember, yeah.
Yeah, so, but yeah, so both 4th round picks, so yeah, so they got so they don't have the benefit of,
How crazy is that, guys? 2 4th round picks in the same draft class, now both all pros at me.
Doing something right, obviously.
Ryan Pace is a friggin' magician.
Well, that's just good scouting right there. Honestly, that's just perfect scouting because that's where you're going to get your football team is rounds 3 through 7. And
You don't say, NFL update.
What's that?
I just saw I just got a notification that says the Jets regret giving Tremaine Johnson that contract, and I was like, you don't say.
For real. I mean, a lot of people are even saying God, that's a lot of money for him, and so
Right.
yeah, that's
He'll get
bad.
cut or something traded.
They have to. I know they've got all the money in the world, but they can't cut. They lose $12 million by cutting him now, so they'll probably hold on to him for at least one more year, and then they can cut him next year. See if they get any value out of it. So, because it makes no sense to cut him right now.
Well, Greg Williams did coach him in St. Louis, so he's got that going for him.
Yeah. That's crazy though that he has the second highest cap number on that team. Like, and I get it because they have $100 million in terms of cap space.
Right.
But
they're like, we just throw it at anybody.
yeah. But Jesus Christ, yeah. Ugh, the Jets. So we've talked about those two things. Le'Veon Bell, we can talk about briefly. The Steelers aren't tagging him. He's going to be free to go. That's about it I got for that. So I don't know what his market is anymore because a lot of teams that were interested earlier are backing out because they feel like they've got better options.
What's crazy to me is, like, here's my biggest issue with Le'Veon is because you look at the teams that it makes sense that he goes to, right? Like, all right, Jets, Colts, Texans, maybe Niners, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then dark horse being the Ravens, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Of all those 5 teams that I just listed, none of them make sense to me except the Ravens. I don't think the Colts are going to make a move on him. They got Marlon Mack. They got that other kid, the pass catcher. You know, between the two backs, it wasn't like it was a problem for them last year. Running back was not an issue. And I don't think the Colts kind of, like, they don't fuck with those type of players. So I don't think it's in their MO. I don't think the Texans really want to commit that much money to him because they got to sign Deshaun. They got to think about Will Fuller, regardless of his injury concerns. He's still a really good number 2.
Well, they have to worry about, in terms of the Texans, they have to worry about that. They also have to worry about Jadeveon Clowney, what they're going to do with him.
Right.
And I get that they can tag him, but what are you going to do long-term with him? Because you just can't tag him every year.
Exactly. And you want to bring in offensive linemen. Like, they need offensive linemen. Whether they attack that aggressively in free agency, there's not many out there. But if I were them, that's my biggest priority. I need to bring in someone, throw $60 million at them, you know? And so then there's that. So that they, in that regard, that comes off my list. Then you got the Jets. If I'm Le'Veon Bell, I don't want to play for the Jets. Like, yeah, they have the solid defense, but now it's like going to go through a transition, a different system, a different guy, a different personality. Todd Bowles was kind of like a quiet dickhead. Greg Williams is a loud dickhead, gets in your face. So like that concern. And then you got the development of Sam Darnold being an issue. New head coach now, new scheme, an Adam Gase scheme. So like, it's like, is there going to be regression or is there going to be growth? So there's question marks there. And then I don't see him on the Jets. So if I'm Le'Veon Bell, I'm taking the best contract that Baltimore can give me because I get to stick it to the Steelers for the next however many years he signs, probably like 4 or 5 years is probably going to be the length of his contract. And then go from there. I just don't see him on any other team.
In that sense, obviously the whole revenge factor would make most sense for him to go to Baltimore. Coming from me, if the money's right, but they have to bring some of these guys back on defense. Obviously you want to surround Lamar Jackson with some great talent. You could do that in the draft, and adding Le'Veon Bell would be a huge piece for him.
Well, you guys would probably be the only team out of all those teams willing to pay him wide receiver money. And that's what you want. You're like, okay, we could definitely use you because we have no one.
Instead of repeating what they've done the last handful of years and going out and grabbing, a wide receiver who's towards the end of their career, that would be nice. Yeah, that would be nice. But if they can do that and bring some of these guys back like C.J. Mosley, who helped save the season last year in the game against the Browns. They're going to want to probably bring Terrell Suggs back for one more year. They'll probably let Eric Weddle go, which is fine. I mean, it'll suck to see him go, but I mean they do have a couple guys on the roster that could fill the void, and they could probably target someone in the draft as well. But if they want to go after a playmaker instead of bringing in another low mid 30-year-old wide receiver. I would like it. I mean, like I said last week, I mean, I miss seeing a player like LeVeon Bell. I mean, I was spoiled with Ray Rice for all those years before his mishap. I mean, it'd be awesome to see that. I mean, with Lamar's play, it would be awesome. Well, with him running around and the option of dumping it off to Le'Veon Bell. And I mean, they had Gus Edwards who broke out last year, and the year before that was Alex Collins. But I mean, those aren't big top 5 name running backs. I mean, Lev Bell's one of those guys that can do it all. He can catch, he can run.
Yeah, it's just interesting to me because, like, if you guys are truly like, this is it for John Harbaugh. If you guys don't make the fucking playoffs and Lamar Jackson gets you to 7-9, 8-8, like, it's not gonna cut it. You're gone. You're gonna hit the panic button and bring in an OC minded guy. Like, you're going to have to. So if they're not all in and don't do everything in their power to put talent around Lamar, starting with his safety blanket that you can also line up in the slot and use as a receiver, you're literally taking 2 positions off your need list by signing him.
Yeah, and we also don't know. Yeah.
All you can do, and then you can, like, draft a receiver in the first or the second.
Yeah, we also don't know what to expect also because, I mean, this is the first offseason with Eric DeCosta as a GM. I mean, after having Ozzie Newsome at that position. So who knows what kind of GM he is? Is he going to be that aggressive guy? Says, yeah, we have to go out there and get this guy. Or is he going to continue what Ozzie's done for the last, 15, 20 years?
Yeah.
I'm going to throw this out here because I have this gut feeling, and I could be wrong when I say this team, but why are we not talking about the Patriots? And I get it, because they have running backs, but it makes too much sense in the sense that they're the team that is willing to take a risk on a big profile guy. I mean, Christ, they traded for Josh Gordon, who, despite all his differences and stuff like that, was a good playmaker. But yeah, he ended up getting suspended halfway through. But think about what you could do with that for Tom Brady's career. You could extend Tom Brady's career until he's 45 by having a guy in Le'Veon Bell. Just coming out of the backfield and just giving it to Bell. Bell could get 110 catches that way. Because that's what we see Tom Brady do. He spreads it out, but if you get one guy to do it, why not?
Because they got Sony Michel, James White, Rex Burkhead.
Right, but we just talked about that though. That if you want to extend Tom Brady's career, and I get that they have Sony Michel, but you can split those two up, and Sony Michel did a pretty good job of splitting everything up this year.
Yeah,
I mean, it's one of those things where, again, it's you got to look at, and I'm always saying the Patriots only because they just seem to be on every big name out there. We heard Odell. I wouldn't be surprised if they've inquired to the Steelers about Antonio Brown, and I wouldn't be shocked, honestly, if they sign Le'Veon Bell. I get it because they don't need him, but if you're really serious considering thinking about Tom Brady for the next couple of years being your guy, then give him all the weapons he wants. Give him all the weapons he needs. He has a $27 million cap hit right now. They can extend that down to probably $15 million, like he has done every single year, and get that down. They can save, so that's $12 million in savings right there. They can save collectively about $19.5 million between Devin McCourty and Rob Gronkowski retiring. So right there, you're looking at $32 million on top of their existing $15.5 million. They can fit Le'Veon's contract in there. They can fit anybody they want in on that team and rebuild as well, because that's what the Patriots do every fucking year. That's why they're so good and so above the rest of the NFL. It's because they rebuild, they retool the team, and every single year, and that's why they're the top team out there. And it's a crazy thought, but we can talk about it because it can happen. I mean, we've seen crazier shit in the NFL.
Yeah. I just don't like thinking about it.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to think about it either, but all right. So we'll move on to really quickly. We will talk about the franchise tag. It is going to happen. The extension or the franchise tag deadline I think ends Monday, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and it started yesterday.
Yeah. So, really quick, I've got on ESPN here some of the teams and names that could franchise tag. As typical with a lot of teams, they don't use it unless it's certain situations. So, the first one, funny enough on this one, I'll start with you, John, is the Baltimore Ravens with C.J. Mosley. Great linebacker, great inside linebacker, but there's been questions about whether he's going to be worth $15 million and whether that's useful cap space or not for him. John, do you think he gets the franchise tag, and do you think they work on an extension, or is it just a franchise tag?
I think he's going to get an extension. I think Mosley loves playing in Baltimore. The fans and the team have really embraced him as being that inside linebacker to succeed Ray Lewis. Not saying he's the next Ray Lewis. I mean, he's been really solid. He stays healthy, and he's usually up there every season, up there at least leading the team in tackles. And he's pretty clutch. I mean, last year he made that big stop on 4th down against the Browns, and it sent them to the playoffs. I mean, obviously they didn't beat the Chargers after that, but I mean, I think one of the big reasons why they bring him back is he's one of those leaders on the defense, and the biggest thing is he stays healthy. I mean, that is a huge plus, and they can't. I don't think they can really replace him or really take a gamble on it. I think that they're going to do whatever it takes to bring him back, and that's priority number one on defense. And I think they'll give him a nice contract.
Yeah. Okay. So you think tag and extension, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Tag and extension. Wonderful. All right, Bronson, you're up next with this one. I'll give this one to you. The Dallas Cowboys, DeMarcus Lawrence. Do you think tag and extension, or do you think just straight extension?
I feel like they already played the tag game with him last year, right?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
And if they tag him again, it's $20.5 million.
Yeah, I think he gets his extension.
Unless, what do you think his ceiling's going to be in terms of money he's going to get? Do you think it's
he'll get top 5 money?
Top 5. Do you think he gets anywhere close to like a Khalil Mack or anything?
No, I think that's going to be used in where they put his money. And I think it's also going to be contingent on if Jadeveon gets a contract. I think that they're going to place him in his market. If not, I think a little higher, but I think they want to see Jadeveon's contract, or they're hoping they see Jadeveon's contract. But yeah, I mean, they played that game with him last year. I don't really see any reason why you're going to tag him at $20-some million when they are desperate. I feel like they're still not done trying to bring in another offensive weapon. So we'll see. And I feel like he's like literally the leader and the main focal point of that defense. So, and I can't believe they're going to let David Irving walk too.
Well, they have to, and that's the thing that Dallas has to worry about in terms of everything. Because right now, even though they've got near $50 million in space, you have to work on an extension with Amari Cooper. You have to work on an extension with Dak Prescott. Eventually with Ezekiel Elliott. So this is where they have to start worrying about, how are we going to, Jalen Smith is going to be extension eligible soon. So they have to worry about where they're going to allocate their money and where they're going to save some money and stuff like that. So
I think Zeke's going to get his contract before anyone else.
Probably. So
yeah. I don't think Dak will get a contract until after the season, if one at all. That's going to be the big interesting
That's gonna be the interesting one. I still think I still think they give him a contract, but it'll be interesting to see how much he gets compared to how much like where his salary is gonna be, because I think he's
if
more
he has an
towards,
off year, he could have like a Blake Bortles deal. If he has a great year, God only knows what his contract could look like.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, the next one I will talk about this one. The Houston Texans with Jadeveon Clowney. I think they tag him, but where do you go from there with Jadeveon Clowney? Because you have to figure out what you're going to do with him. You've got J.J. Watt there, who's shown that he was healthy and he was a predominant. He was the best pass rusher on that team. You just signed DeAndre Hopkins to an extension, but you have to worry about guys like Deshaun Watson eventually. You have to worry about where you're going to go with in terms of the defensive backs. You have to bring an offensive lineman in there. So right now, and on top of that, the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu, is a free agent. So you have to pay him if you want to keep him around. So they're going to have to figure out how much they're willing to bend and break and take and whatnot, because they have to start making those decisions now. So I'll pass it over to you guys when I ask this question, because one of the things I heard, again, listening to the Stick to Football podcast, was Houston, they can tag him, but do you trade Jadeveon Clowney for like a one and a third round pick, or do you just keep him? And
it's really a matter of how they value him. Yeah.
John, what do you think?
I think it's going to come down to them tagging him, but I don't know. There seems like a lot of question marks, because I remember before the season was over, there were talks of him possibly going to another team, and it kind of surprises me. I know early in his career, health was an issue, but since then, he's really come on strong. But man, it's really high value if they can trade him for a first. If a team offers that, that's pretty juicy. It kind of gives you another opportunity to find another great young talent that you don't have to worry about paying millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That would be my only caveat to that. I think, don't get me wrong, I think Jadeveon Clowney has the potential still, even though he's been in the league for 4 or 5 years, he still has the potential to be one of the better pass rushers in the league, top 5. But if you can instead rebuild that team, if you could trade him to, let's say, let's say Oakland, for example, get one of their late first round picks out of it, and like a third round pick, I would do it. If you could trade him to, looking at pass rushers, like the Jets, if you can get a future first down to them. I don't think you can get them for 1 overall, in this draft, but, or, number 3 overall this draft, but you get him for a future first, fucking do it. Because anybody that trades for him has to pay him as well. That's the caveat. Is if you're going to trade for Jadeveon, you have to pay Jadeveon. So, but if I'm the Texans, I'm looking into trading him. Only for the simple fact that you have to rebuild that team in the shape of Deshaun Watson, because that's your guy. You have to build that offensive line.
It's like they're like in this weird, really weird state of limbo.
Yeah,
we got some guys who can run against the pass rush, or we got some pass rushers, but then we got these random pieces on offense, but no line. Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's interesting, and they're interesting in the sense that they have to figure out whether they want to take the next step into contending, or if they just want to, keep playing
for that wild card.
Yeah, exactly. So, because Indianapolis is coming back next year, and they have the most cap space, and they made the playoffs. So,
yeah.
And did they lose in the first round? I can't remember. It's been so long.
They won the first.
That's right, because they beat the Texans. That's right. Yeah, so you have to contend with a team that beat you, that has more money and has draft capital up the asshole.
And a really good offensive line.
Yeah, exactly. So y'all got to figure shit out. So
Here's an idea, Houston. Turn Jadeveon and J.J. Watt into offensive linemen. Let's go.
Awesome.
He's over there shaking his head.
Yeah. I'll skip over this one, D Ford, because the Chiefs have already said they're going to tag him.
Yeah.
So, that's fine. Dante Fowler, John, I'll lead with you for this one.
Now,
Dante
this is
Fowler.
a tricky one. This is a tricky one.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Do you think they tag him, or do you think they just let him hit free agency?
I think he's going to hit free agency. He didn't really do anything spectacular when he got traded. But I think I don't know. This is a tricky one, man. That's a curveball right there. But I think he's ultimately going to hit free agency and make some big bucks somewhere. But I don't think he's going to get tagged though.
Yeah, I don't see a tag either. But where do you think the chances are he re-signs in Los Angeles?
Ooh, I don't think the chances are that good, honestly. I mean, I mean, I would say they value him pretty highly, but I don't think they can really afford him, knowing that, what is it, the following year that they're going to have to worry about paying Goff?
Yeah, I think after 2019 he's extension eligible. Maybe they can push it off to 2020. Because they have the 5th-year option, but
I mean, because I know they're most likely not going to bring Sue back as well. But I think that's what they're going to have to worry about. I mean, if they pay Fowler too much money, I mean, how are they going to afford Goff? I mean, if Goff has another solid year and they make it deep in the playoffs again, I mean, they're going to have to worry about paying him over $100 million, most likely. So, I mean, I don't see it happening. I'm sure they'd love to bring him back, but I don't think the money's right.
So I agree as well. I think they tried the experiment of let's just try, and I don't think the Rams are necessarily done. I think they're going to be aggressive this offseason as well, trying to get some guys on their team so that way they can retool for another Super Bowl run. So Bronson,
Yes.
Minnesota Vikings with Anthony Barr. What do you do?
They're letting him go, man. I think they're going to let him walk. And this is, God, if there was a year I wish the Bears had some cap, I really, really, really would love for him to join us. Really, really love. Just so he could be on our team tormenting Aaron Rodgers. I can't, I've been reading about it because I've been staying on top of it because I would love to see that beast leave our division. But it seems like they're perfectly content with him leaving. Like, they feel like Mike Zimmer's system, it goes beyond him as a player, and he was hurt last year, and there were players playing really well behind him. And, they got Donnell Hunter over there, man, and he was a fucking stud and a half,
Yeah.
So I think they're like, all right, well, we're not going to have to, we don't want to pay you this much money because, well, we kind of gave that ability away when we signed Kirk Cousins. So I think they're just going to let him walk, and he will probably end up being the highest paid defensive player on the market.
All right. And let's see here. That was pretty much it in terms of that. I mean, they had like Steven Gostkowski out there, which I don't see the Patriots franchise tagging him. I think they move on from him, honestly.
I think he's going to be our kicker. I think he's going to be the Bears kicker.
Yeah. San Francisco's going to tag Robbie Gould from all intents and purposes that I've seen.
And that's just cruel. That's just cruel. Don't even get me started on it, man. Like, let the man go back to his family. His kids, his wife, they all live in Chicago. He gets to spend, like, a few months of the year with them. Like, if he's like, can I just, like, please go back to Chicago? Like, they really need me.
Like, nope.
And, like, and they're like, nah, yeah, no, we're gonna give you $5 million. Go scratch.
Yeah, we're
We're a
gonna
bunch of
get
assholes.
not only we're gonna give you $5 million, but we're gonna give you $5 million to live in San Francisco, which is arguably, like a nice city. So, yeah, I think it's like one of those things where it's like a catch-22. Like, he wants to go back home, but also, getting paid millions and millions of dollars to hang out in California, essentially. Like, that's cool. Except the tax rate is ridiculous. So, and finally, we'll just touch on One thing really quick with the draft in terms of next week. One of the bigger stories. There's two stories that came out, or not came out, but there are two stories there. One, I don't care about Kyler Murray. Basically, Kyler Murray may or may not throw at the combine. I think he should, just so teams can evaluate him, but I think he has so much hype around him, I don't see them necessarily wanting him to do it. Plus, this is a guy who, I don't know if he can, I don't know how much he's been preparing to play football. We don't know. There's so much unknown with Kyler Murray at this point. It's ridiculous.
Right.
And it's starting to get a little concerning. And that worries me. So if I'm the Arizona Cardinals, I'm definitely not taking him first overall, because that scares me. If I can't see him throw,
that smoke screen needs to just go away.
I don't know. I don't think there's a smoke screen, honestly, because there's people in the NFL that are dead set, like, no, it's happening. Like, it's gonna happen.
I think it is. I feel like Cliff got hired solely because they were like, all right, what are you gonna do with our quarterback? Not, do you plan on getting us Kyler Murray one?
Well, but you have to realize that can be the plan going in. But if the situation changes, because I don't think the Arizona Cardinals were in the position to think, oh, we're going to draft Kyler Murray. Like, no, we're going to draft probably Nick Bosa, or we're going to trade down. But it's almost like the same thing in my opinion, like what happened in Washington. And when I say that was when Jay Gruden was hired, the whole purpose of Jay Gruden being hired was to salvage RG3's career. And during the interview process, during everything we've heard about, he was like, no, I can do it. No, I can do it. No, I can do it. And then guess what happened? He fucking benched him and put Kirk Cousins in there. And Kirk Cousins became the starter in the NFL. After promising, no, I can make this guy work. I can make this guy work. It can happen in the NFL. I'm not going to believe it won't happen until officially it doesn't happen, because it's the NFL. The crazier things have happened, and you have to, if they want to trade Josh Rosen, they have to be like, yeah, that's our guy. Yeah, that's our guy. And then at like the combine next week, which starts on Monday, that's when you can be like, all right, like teams that are interested, like Washington, for example. I would trade our first round pick for Josh Rosen, first and maybe a future first or a future second or something. I'd trade that for Josh Rosen. I think he fits schematically well in our system, and I think he's the type of quarterback that could fit well in Washington in terms of everything. So, I don't know. I won't believe it until I see it, essentially. That's what I'm trying to get at with it. So, but the other news, briefly, really quick, was one of our guys that we had in our first mock draft that we ever had, Marquise Brown, who is Antonio Brown's cousin, will not be participating in the combine or his pro day. He has an injury.
Hurts his draft value.
Yeah. Do you think he? I'll start with you, John. Do you think he's still a first rounder? Because we had him going 24th overall to the Oakland Raiders. Do you think that hurts, or do you think people know that he's fast and can catch the ball, and it keeps him up there?
I think it hurts him a little. I think he's going to drop to like early second round is what I'm saying. I mean, it's a foot injury too. So, I mean, it obviously a very key injury for a wide receiver or really any position in the NFL. But I don't think it hurts him like so much. I think he's still going to go in the second round, but I think it's going to be like early, mid-second round.
Bronson, what do you think?
I'm going to say bottom of the second, maybe early third.
Really?
Yeah.
You think it hurts them that much?
Yes, dude. They want to see something. There's a reason why those days are so important, and it's for their draft hype. Because there's going to be people that are in the combine and at their Pro Bowl or pro days that are going to excel and do well, and then that's just going to put him further down the list and those people further up the list. So people are going to be taking other people instead of them. I mean, we see it every year where they they drop, or I mean, Anthony Miller fell to the third round because he had an injury. and he couldn't do things at the combine. That was like his first thing getting interviewed by the Bears is, are you going to be ready to go? We know you had ankle issues and knee issues coming into this season. And, he said he was, and then, he ended up having like shoulder issues throughout the year. But absolutely, like, it's going to hurt his stock because all those other receivers in the draft are going to make it a point to perform at their pro days and at the combine. So I see that guy. I mean, he was arguably in the top 5 at his position, and now that he's just going to get pushed further down that list, if not outside of that list. So like either it's going to be typically in years past, the receivers, it's usually 1, maybe 2 go in the first round. This past season, we didn't see a receiver go in the first round until Calvin Ridley?
Yeah,
or
late
DJ
in the first
Moore?
round, yeah.
DJ Moore or Calvin Ridley were the first receivers taken, and that was 19 or 20 something, and that was it. And then day 2, you saw the 3, 4, and 5 guy go in the second round. So let's say if Mr. Brown is number 5 at his position grouping right now, and there's people that are excelling, and he gets pushed down to 6, 7, or 8 at his position in that group after their respective pro days and combine. Yeah, you're looking at like a late 2nd, 3rd round pick.
One thing I could see though, I mean, I don't know if this is kind of a stretch. If he's going to go late in the second, or it could go in the middle of the second, well, what are the chances that the Browns take a chance on him? Because I mean, he is from Oklahoma. What if they pair him up? And I could see the Browns going after him. I mean, why not pair him up and give him someone that Baker is familiar with in another weapon? I mean, it's a Lisfranc injury too, which is always a very questionable injury from all sorts of different position players that suffer from that injury. And they say that he could be ready for the rookie minicamp, but that's a big could. I mean, he just underwent the surgery too, and we're towards the end of February. I mean, anything could happen. I mean, I don't know. It's a stretch, but I could probably see how the Browns going after him.
The only concern I have, and again, and this was a concern. I don't know, because we've seen fast guys get drafted in the first round. I mean, Christ, we saw John Ross get drafted number 9 overall, and he hasn't done shit except just be fast, essentially. And even then, he's been whatever. But my biggest concern with Marquise Brown when it comes to everything is his playing weight. He played last year at he's 5'11", about $170. When he came out of high school, when he was senior high school, he played at 130 pounds. His freshman season, when he finally bulked up, he played at 150 pounds. So Bronson, just trying to do some math here, I think his frame's pretty much maxed out, right? Unless we're starting to think like he'll go up to DK Metcalf and be like, hey, bro, what supplements you taking? Because you thick, boy. Like, you thick with 2 C's, boy. It's like...
I mean, he could probably put on more weight. There's always more weight to be gained. I mean, the younger you are, the harder it is to put on weight, get that muscle. So I could see him getting to, like, 185, 190. But even still, like, I mean, and like you said, that's a concern. So that's just more of a reason for his draft stock to drop. So, like, don't be surprised if he goes at, like, the top of the 3rd round to, let's say, like, the Broncos or some other team that could use a weapon. And it's too much risk to spend your 1st or 2nd round pick on a guy that could or could not make it to training camp and also have to learn a new system at the NFL level and then expect you expect your 1st and 2nd round picks to be contributing day 1. And I just don't think people want to take that chance on someone who may or may not perform.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll leave it there with that. And yeah, we're excited. The combine is next week, which is always a good time. And that's where we see in years past. That's where we see a lot of stuff move and shake in terms of everything, in terms of not only trades, but also that's where we see a lot of, that's where we're going to see the guys who perform well, get pushed up, and draft boards start to get a little bit more solidified, and guys who fail and aren't prepared, that's when they start dropping down. So I'm excited to see what is going to be in terms of the combine. So I will be keeping my eyes closed my eyes close on it as much as possible. I know Bronson, you probably will do the same as well, and John, you will do the same as well. So
Yes, sir.
But that about does it for this podcast. I think we've talked about everything in terms of everything. So yeah, that about does it. John, where can I find people of Podcast Land find you?
Right now you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at NERRRICH, and that will be changing soon. Wink face. More news to come. But yeah, you can find me there for now.
All right. And Bronson, where can find people at Podcast Land find you?
You can find me at work or on Instagram at Chefman Bronson or on Twitter as Bronson, IOUS, Bronsonius. So yeah.
Yeah. And you can find me on Twitter as well at OG Liquid Jesus. Same with Instagram, OG Liquid Jesus, where I don't post much. I just like your photos. Just keep posting photos, and I'll double tap my phone as hard as I can, as hard as I can. I will double tap my phone. You can also find this podcast on Twitter at P_I_podcast. God, I can't even say our own name. P_I_podcast. You can also find our podcast on Facebook at Past Interference Podcast, where we are now up from 69 likes to 75 likes. So yay for us. But
all right, real quick before we end,
yes.
The team with the lowest odds, or I guess the highest chance right now in terms of gambling and what everyone's betting on, is the number one team with the best odds to land Antonio Brown is, drum roll, Max, I'll give you a guess. Give me a guess.
I'll say San Francisco.
John, give me a guess.
I'm also going San Fran.
And survey says Indianapolis.
What?
Yep. And
Yeah.
I'll also say this is
That'd be a good fit for him, honestly.
Yeah.
I was paying attention to the odds and everything with Khalil Mack and everything, and we were the number one team to land him. So this kind of stuff, I kind of feel like it can be accurate.
Yeah, with that really quick, you could trade. They have draft capital. I mean, they have 2 second-round picks. So if you want to, and you want to trade that Jets pick, or if you want to trade your lower second-round pick, then yeah, go for it, man. You've got all the cap space in the world. Give Andrew Luck another weapon. Yeah. I would love to see my buddy Frank's reaction, though, because I know he's been going in hard on Antonio Brown. But if he made it on that team, then yeah, that'd be hilarious. That would be hilarious. So, but anyways, yeah. So that about does it for this podcast. Everybody, have a good night.